This billionaire brought his girlfriend to a rundown house, told her this was his real life, and what she did next will shock you. But first, let me tell you why he felt he had to test her. What if the person you loved was testing your heart instead of trusting it? When Marcus blindfolded his girlfriend and drove her across town, she never imagined this romantic gesture would become the moment that changed everything. The mansion she knew, the luxury she'd grown accustomed to, was about to vanish before her eyes. "Don't peek. Remember, don't peek," Marcus whispered as he guided Isabella through an unfamiliar doorway. "I'm not peeking," Isabella laughed, her hands outstretched as she carefully stepped forward. "Watch your step. Raise your leg a bit. Good. Keep your eyes closed," Marcus instructed, his voice carrying a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. "My eyes are closed. What is all this?" Isabella giggled. "Very good. Now, I want you to open your eyes." Isabella's eyes fluttered open, and her smile slowly faded. Before her stood a tiny, dilapidated room. The walls were cracked and stained. A single worn mattress lay on the dirt floor with tattered blankets, and sunlight streamed through gaps in the rusty metal roof. This wasn't a romantic surprise. This was poverty. "Welcome to my humble home, baby," Marcus said, watching her face carefully. "Come, let me show you around." Isabella stood frozen, unable to process what she was seeing. "This is it," Marcus continued, gesturing around the cramped space. "I use this wooden beam for extra support when I sit. And this is my mattress. I just spread my covers on it, and this is where I sleep. I know the place looks small, but this is all I can manage for now. I hope you don't mind." The silence stretched between them. "Baby, you're not talking," Marcus said softly. "Marcus." Isabella's voice came out barely above a whisper. "Yes, baby. This is your house. Well, actually it's not mine. Someone allowed me to stay here until I can get a place for myself. I don't have a choice. There's nowhere else to go, so I manage this place." "You're joking. Please tell me you're joking," Isabella said, her eyes darting around looking for hidden cameras. "Where's your real home? Let's go there. This is where I call home for now, babe." "I'm not joking. I'm being serious." "You're serious?" Isabella felt her chest tighten. "Yes, this is my place. This is where I sleep at night." "What? How have you been coping in this kind of environment?" Isabella asked, genuine concern flooding her voice. Marcus looked down at his feet. "You know me. I'm strong. I can cope anywhere. Besides, this is what life threw at me, and I have no choice. But this isn't my end, okay? I have prospects. I'm educated. I have certificates in different fields, but things haven't been easy. For now, instead of begging on the streets, I decided to manage whatever I have. I promise you things will get better." He stepped closer to her. "I know this is very hard for you because you weren't expecting this. But look, if you can just trust me and stick with me, when things get better, I will give you whatever you want in this world. I'll fly you to every country on earth. Wherever you want to be, I'll take you there. Just manage with me for now." Isabella's eyes welled with tears. "I'm so disappointed." Marcus's heart sank. "You've been going through all of this, and you never once mentioned it to me," Isabella continued. "I could have supported you to get an apartment. I could have helped. Babe, what kind of man would I be if I couldn't provide for my woman? If you're the one providing for me, I'd be a failure," Marcus replied. "I know you're not a lazy man. I know you have great visions. You're ambitious, and that's what I love about you. If you had told me about this, I would have supported you. Why did you hide this from me? You've been suffering all this time, and you never said a word." Marcus looked at the woman he loved, seeing not disgust or disappointment in her eyes, but genuine care and pain that he had suffered alone. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Things will get better once I get back on my feet. We're going to get out of this place and find somewhere better. Please bear with me." He began arranging the sparse space. "I'm sorry for not being a good host. Let me prepare a place for us to sit. I always keep my things tied up like this, so nobody steals them when I'm not around. You have to be careful in places like this. Please, have a seat," Marcus said, gesturing to the mattress. "Let me help you with your bag." Isabella sat down slowly, still processing everything. "I got you something to eat," Marcus said, pulling out a small package. "Bread with peanut butter and a soda. I want you to eat while I go change my clothes." There's a small bathroom behind here. Just give me a minute." As Marcus disappeared behind a makeshift curtain, Isabella looked around the tiny space. The reality of his situation crashed over her. How long had he been living like this? How had she not known? She watched a small lizard scurry across the wall. There were no mosquito nets, no proper ventilation, no security. If rain fell, the room would flood. Yet Marcus had faced this every single day without complaint, without asking for help, protecting his dignity even as he struggled. When Marcus returned, he found Isabella standing by the doorway, looking out at the dusty neighborhood. Children played barefoot in the street. Women balanced water containers on their heads. This was a world so different from her own privileged upbringing. "Are you okay?" Marcus asked quietly. Isabella turned to him, and in that moment, Marcus saw something in her eyes that he'd been testing for all along. Not pity, not disgust, but genuine love and determination. She walked out to fetch water and returned to find her world had shattered. When Sophia left that cramped room for just 20 minutes, she had no idea that her boyfriend was already planning her goodbye. The test wasn't over. In fact, it was about to reach its most heartbreaking moment. Sophia stood in line at the community water pump, a plastic container in her hands. The sun beat down mercilessly as she waited her turn among the other women and children of the neighborhood. Her designer clothes looked completely out of place here, drawing curious stares and whispered conversations. She'd insisted on fetching the water herself. When Ethan had mentioned they'd need fresh water for the evening, she'd grabbed the container before he could protest. If this was his life, she wanted to understand it. She wanted to show him that she could adapt, that his circumstances didn't define their love. 20 minutes later, she returned to the small dwelling, water sloshing in the heavy container. Her arms ached, and sweat had soaked through her blouse, but she felt a strange sense of accomplishment. "Ethan," she called out as she pushed through the makeshift door. "I got the water." Silence. "Babe." She looked around the tiny space. His few belongings were still there, the worn blankets, the wooden supports, the small bag he'd shown her. But Ethan was gone. Sophia set down the water container and stepped outside, shielding her eyes from the sun. She scanned the dusty street. Children continued their games. A few neighbors sat in the shade. But no Ethan. "Excuse me." She approached an elderly woman sitting nearby. "Did you see the man who was here? Tall, wearing a blue shirt." The woman shook her head, eyeing Sophia's expensive watch and shoes with suspicion. Sophia's heart began a race. Where could he have gone? She walked around the small structure, checking behind it, calling his name. Nothing. She returned to the room and sat on the mattress, confusion giving way to concern. Had something happened? Was he in trouble? She reached for her phone. No service in this area. Of course. Minutes turned into an hour. Sophia's worry intensified. She decided to wait. He had to come back eventually. This was his home, after all. Meanwhile, around the corner and out of sight, Ethan sat with his head in his hands, a friend beside him. "She's really gone, man," Ethan said, his voice hollow. "I left her there alone, went to change clothes, and when I came back, she'd disappeared. Just like the others." "Are you sure she left?" his friend asked. "Maybe she just stepped out. She took her bag. Her big bag is gone. She ran away, just like I knew she would. I even tried asking that old lady who sits outside all day, and she practically insulted me." Ethan's laugh was bitter. "Called me foolish, said no woman would date me without money. She's right. This is the fourth one," his friend said quietly. "Fourth time I've been abandoned the moment a woman sees what my life really looks like. Fourth time I've opened up my world and watched someone run from it." Ethan stood abruptly. I'm done. I'm done with women. Maybe I wasn't meant to have someone in my life." "Don't say that. Why must they all want money? Why can't even one woman see past it? Does true love even exist anymore?" Ethan's frustration boiled over. "I can't keep giving myself heartbreaks for nothing. One small inconvenience, and they all leave." His friend remained silent, knowing there were no words that could ease this particular pain. "I really thought she was different," Ethan continued, his voice breaking. "I thought she was the one." Back in the small room, Sophia heard footsteps approaching. She jumped up, ready to embrace Ethan, ready to reassure him that she hadn't abandoned him. But it wasn't Ethan. A young woman entered, looking surprised to see Sophia there. "Oh, I didn't know anyone was here," the woman said. "I'm looking for Ethan. Is he around?" "He stepped out," Sophia replied. "I'm his girlfriend. I'm waiting for him to come back." The woman's expression grew concerned. "His girlfriend? How long have you been here?" "A couple of hours." "Do you know where he might have gone?" "Look," the woman said, lowering her voice. "I don't know what he's told you, but you should know this isn't actually his place. He asked to borrow it for the day. He said he needed it for something important." Sophia felt ice run through her veins. "What do you mean borrowed it? Ethan doesn't live here. He lives in Riverside Heights, in one of those big houses by the golf course. Everyone in this neighborhood knows about it. He's the rich guy who sometimes comes around to help with community projects." The room seemed to spin. "He brought other women here too," the woman continued. "We all thought it was strange. Why would a wealthy man bring ladies to the poorest part of town? Some of us thought maybe he was filming something or doing research. But now I'm thinking." She trailed off, looking at Sophia with pity. Sophia's shock transformed into something else. A deep, burning realization. This had all been a test. An elaborate, cruel test. "Where is he now?" Sophia asked, her voice steady despite her churning emotions. "Probably sitting with his friend around the corner. That's where he usually waits." Sophia grabbed the water container she'd worked so hard to fill. She'd proven something today, but not what Ethan had intended to test. She'd proven her own strength, her own character, her ability to love beyond circumstance. But Ethan? He'd proven only his own fear, his inability to trust, and his willingness to manipulate rather than communicate. She walked out of that room knowing she'd passed a test she'd never agreed to take. The question now was whether she'd ever forgive the tester. The mansion doors swung open to reveal the biggest lie of all. When Christopher finally brought Natalie to his real home, she didn't feel relieved. She felt betrayed. Sometimes the truth hurts more than any poverty ever could, and this moment would test whether love could survive manipulation disguised as protection. Natalie sat in the car, confusion and hurt warring in her chest. After their night in that terrible room, after she'd stayed despite the mosquitoes, the dirt, the stench, Christopher had suddenly insisted they leave. He'd been nervous, almost frantic, as he'd rushed her into his car. Now, they pulled up to a gated estate that looked like something from a luxury magazine. "Where are we?" Natalie asked. Christopher took a deep breath. "My actual home." The gates opened automatically, and they drove down a tree-lined driveway to a stunning modern mansion. Manicured lawns stretched in every direction. A fountain sparkled in the circular driveway. The house itself was 3 stories of glass, steel, and elegant stonework. Natalie felt numb. A well-dressed man opened her car door. "Welcome home, Mr. Christopher." "Ma'am." Christopher led her inside without a word. The foyer alone was larger than the entire shack they'd just left. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, original artwork on the walls. This wasn't just wealth. This was extraordinary affluence. "Christopher," Natalie said, her voice dangerously calm. "What is this?" "Let me explain. What is this?" She spun to face him, anger finally breaking through her shock. Christopher ran his hand through his hair. "The place I took you yesterday, it's in the neighborhood where I grew up. My family was poor. Very poor. That's not exactly my current situation, as you can see, but..." "But what?" Natalie demanded. "But you're not the first woman I've taken there." The words hit her like a physical blow. "In fact, you're the 4th, Christopher continued. "The first 3 ran away immediately. They couldn't handle seeing me in that environment. I believe that if I took you to where I came from, and you loved me anyway, stayed with me anyway, it would prove your love was real." Natalie stared at him, unable to speak. "That's why I carried out the test," Christopher said. "I know you're angry, but please understand." "Let me understand," Natalie interrupted, her voice shaking. "All of this was a test. That house we went to, that's not where you live. Everything you told me was a lie. Everything was a test, yes, but..." "Why?" Natalie felt tears threatening. "What do you have that requires you to test me first? Do you think you can buy me with your money? That's not what I'm saying. I wasn't trying to buy you. Then what were you trying to do? See if I would leave you when you pretended to be poor? Is that it? You're getting it all wrong, Christopher pleaded. I've really suffered when it comes to women. I've been traumatized. I've met many women, but none of them loved me for who I am. Natalie laughed bitterly. I see. It seems you've forgotten who I am. My father can afford anything I want. I'm not a gold digger. Do you realize I could hire a husband if I wanted? If I wanted to be with a celebrity, I could pursue them. But I loved you for who you are, not for what you have. And you had to test me like I'm some kind of opportunist? I'm sorry. Do you think I wanted money? How much do you think you have that I couldn't access myself? Natalie's voice rose. You have no idea what I've sacrificed to be with you. The men my father wanted me to marry. The lifestyle I was expected to maintain. I chose you because I loved you. That's exactly what I'm trying to explain, Christopher said desperately. I didn't know that. How was I supposed to know you'd be different? I've been with many women who built relationships with me only for what I could provide. So you had to compare me with them? Did you have to treat me like every other woman who disappointed you? It was a trauma response, Christopher said, because of what I've been through. I needed to know that you wouldn't do the same thing. Natalie felt her heart breaking. Do you know how I feel right now? Sleeping on that floor with you, I was thinking about our future, how we'd build a life together, how I'd stand by you while you got back on your feet. I was planning how to help you without hurting your pride. And all along, you were just watching me like I was a rat in a maze, seeing if I'd find the cheese or run away. When I went to change clothes and came back and didn't see you, I was heartbroken, Christopher said. I thought another woman had given up on me. But when you returned, when you told me you just gone to fetch water, I was so happy. I knew right then that I found my wife. Your wife. Natalie's voice was hollow. I can't be with you, Christopher. If you have to test me to prove my love, I can't be with you. Babe, please, Christopher reached for her hand. Let me go. Natalie pulled away. I need to think. She walked through the mansion that should have been a dream come true, but felt like a prison. Every luxury item, every expensive decoration, reminded her of the poverty Christopher had faked. The deception ran deeper than the test itself. It showed that he'd never truly trusted her, had never been vulnerable with her in an honest way. Christopher followed her. When I saw you on that floor beside me, mosquitoes biting you, the place dirty and uncomfortable, and you were still smiling, still happy to be with me. No one has ever done that before. We laughed together. We went out together. You were willing to stay despite everything. Because I thought it was real. Natalie turned to face him, tears streaming down her face. I thought I was supporting the man I loved through his hardest time. Instead, I was performing in your trust experiment. I know it will take time for you to forgive me, Christopher said, but I'm ready to spend the rest of my life apologizing. Please try to understand. I did this because of what I've been through. Natalie looked at him, really looked at him. She saw his fear, his trauma, his desperate need for validation. She also saw his selfishness, his inability to communicate, his choice to manipulate rather than trust. I need time, she said finally. I have something else to show you, Christopher said suddenly. What? Another test? Another house you don't really live in? Natalie's laugh was bitter. No, please. Just close your eyes for one moment. Can I trust you? Natalie asked, the irony of the question hanging heavy between them. Yes, please. Against her better judgment, Natalie closed her eyes. She heard Christopher moving, heard something being opened. Then his voice, trembling with emotion. Natalie Richardson, daughter of the distinguished Mr. James Richardson, will you do this flawed man the honor of spending the rest of your life with him? Natalie opened her eyes to see Christopher on one knee, holding a ring that probably cost more than most people's houses. But all she could see was the test, the lie, the manipulation disguised as love. Is this real? She whispered. Or is this another test to see if I'll say yes even when I'm hurt? Christopher's face fell as he realized the depth of damage his deception had caused. In trying to protect his heart, he'd broken hers. And now, even his most genuine gesture would be questioned. Some tests cost more than the answers they provide. Lesson. This story reveals a painful truth. Our past hurts don't justify hurting others in the present. Christopher's previous heartbreaks were real, but they didn't give him the right to manipulate Natalie's emotions through elaborate deception. When we allow our traumas to dictate our behavior, we risk becoming the very thing that hurt us, people who damage those who love them. Healing from past pain requires therapy, self-reflection, and honest communication, not elaborate tests that treat our partners as suspects rather than supporters. True love can only grow when both people choose vulnerability over self-protection and trust over testing. If your trauma prevents you from trusting others, seek healing before seeking relationships. Otherwise, you'll destroy the very love you're desperately trying to find.